we talked right at the start about how Line 6 ultimately has created this for people who play as much as people who are interested in live sound. And one of the things that's become much more prevalent in more recent years, especially with bands, is kind of the democratic sort of community aspect of it. Now, there's a performance button at the bottom, and I know from looking through the specs that it's designed to make sort of real-time tweaks, but also to do that not just from the perspective of live sound engineer, but for the people who are actually up on the stage as well.
That's absolutely right. I mean, performance mode here, it's like, okay, we've got everything set, we're ready to go, which is it's actually one of the interesting things when somebody said, well, where are the faders? I'm used to a fader when I'm performing. Oh, yeah, I'm used to a fader on this type of product. And, well, the ideal, the application here is that you've probably got your hands on your instrument rather than, multiple fingers on faders simultaneously adjusting things. But in performance mode, you just grab, if you want to do an on-the-fly tweak here, just grab one of the encoders. The screen's all locked down here, so you don't accidentally swipe the whole band off the stage. But things are sort of really locked down. We can remember our little group thing here that we can swipe there if you want to change the whole group thing. But it really is, that straightforward. If we want to go here, we can, rapidly in performance mode, just sort of change the pan or the trim or the effects on the different channels if we want to. So it really sort of just makes it very simple that now, okay, you're set, you're done, you're responsible for your own sound, you're going to go, right? And so, it really sort of cleans things up. That doesn't preclude the ability to just say, oh, I just want to go in there and just dial in Bob's tone a little bit, using the XY pad or something like that. Then you can jump into that as well very quickly.
One of the things that we have noticed as well, and that when the kind of the press launch first happened for the M20D, was also that there was connection directly with the iPad, which is brand new thing that we've seen, especially in terms of mixing. But this, I kind of believe, allows individual members of the band to create their own monitor mixes from wherever they are on stage.
We've got, yes, once you've got this sort of lockdown, one of the beautiful things, or one of the challenges, if you're mixing from the stage, is you never really get to hear what it sounds like out front. You could do that without the iPad, because you could stick it into quick capture mode. You can capture a section and the whole band can walk out front of house and they can listen to it and go back and tweak. But another way of doing it is, as you say, yes, using the iPad. We're using a USB Wi-Fi dongle here, and you go to line6.com to actually find the ones that are compatible with the system. There are a couple that are compatible, but check that out. That's sort of an important sort of little side note. But as you can see, we've basically got the control here. I can move items around the stage. I can go onto Bob. I can go into tweak. I can quick tweak Bob, so I can make adjustments. I can even set quick capture or recording. So basically do everything on the iPad that I can do on the actual unit itself. One of the applications, and we talked about, going out and listening to yourself front of house. This is brilliant because you can sort of walk out front of house and listen to it. But the other thing is that you could give it to your drummer, and you could go into monitor mix here, or say your guitarist, because we've targeted it. But you can just hand it to the guitarist and say, look, okay, I know you want to hear a lot of yourself in the monitor. You can actually adjust that and have more of yourself or less of yourself, or if you really do want to get a bit of snare in here, then you can actually do that and set your own monitor mix up in exactly the same way that you would do if you were using the hardware, and go into perform. The other cool thing about it is that you could be in monitor mix mode here on this screen, and if I pull this away, then you can see we've got a different screen here, so you can have actually still in perform mode. So we can have different screens on the different control surfaces. So really, really quite helpful.
And how many instances can you have running at once? Is it one per iPad, but is there a certain number that you can have running at the same time as the home screen, as it were?
It's up to 2 at the moment, and what happens is that you start to run out of, it just slows down a little bit. I mean, you could probably have 3 or 4 on there, but it sort of gets to a point where you're at the limitation of the bandwidth of the Wi-Fi at that particular point. But so yeah, I mean, 1's ideal, up to 2, really, that's useful.
On On the right-hand side of the unit appear to be some extra controls there. We haven't really addressed them yet, so I assume that they have a specific purpose too.
Yep, we can just quickly talk about those. We've got a mute all here, which does exactly that. It mutes the outputs here. It's an actual physical disconnect on the outputs. So if you just want to mute everything going out to all the speakers, then you can do that, which, before you power off the system, it's quite a good thing to do. Sure. Mute mic is a software mute here, which is assignable. So what you can do is you can assign what you want to mute and when. So maybe you're going off for the break and you just want to have the aux in here playing your backing tracks or the media player or something. You can mute all the open mics, or maybe you want to mute everything but the MC's mic. And then you can just assign those and you can mute those. Obviously, we've used the keyboard before, we've got our icon here that we can actually change icons. There's a bunch of different icons here that we can change. Delete, we want to get rid of, the guitarist. He was far too loud anyway. Let's get rid of him. We can do that. And there's this little I button here. If we press that, then we've got help built into the system. So, okay, well, how do scenes work? What is a scene all about? And so basically you've got the user's guide in there, and other things, record mode, what are the software call-outs, hardware call-outs, which gives you a good explanation of what's going on the screen. Right. So it's right there, when you get, just getting up and running. Then we've got the ability, we talked about the foot switches, 2 foot switches, we can assign them effects, mute, scene change, start, stop, media player, quick capture. So we can assign what those do on that page there. Manage line 6 link devices. If we had our stage source speakers connected up, they'd pop up here in a table to show what was connected where and what they'd been assigned. And you can rearrange that if you want, so there's some flexibility there. And then, we've got some of the classic things, about, what is it, what's the firmware revision, setting it up for the Wi-Fi. It's got a security pin here, backing the system up, updating the system, updating, line 6 link enabled products as well. So there's a little sort of the backroom nuts and bolts stuff in there as well. And that is a tour through it. As you see, hopefully you'll go in and experience it and start playing with it and really interact with it.
The StageScape M20D really does have to be seen to be believed. I mean, we've shown you what it can do here, but actually to really get an idea of what's best for you and the way that you work, it'll be best if you can actually play with the unit yourself. The best thing to do is ring ahead to the stores and ask if they can give you a demo at any of the DB247s of the StageScape. And they can put that through either the sort of monitors that you personally use, the speakers that you use, or alternatively through the brand new Line 6 speakers instead, which we also will be talking about on a separate video. There'll be a link below to those as well. Thanks very much. And that was the Line 6 StageScape M20D.
That'll do the job.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll just have